know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning. With beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning. With beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning. With beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Redevelopment Commission meeting. Will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Can we do the roll call?
Commissioner Lack?
Here.
Commissioner Ambler? Here. Commissioner Joswiak? Here. Commissioner Munt?
Here.
Mayor Bonta?
Here.
Commissioner Vasquez?
Here.
Did everybody have a chance to look at the November 21st minutes, and is there a motion on them?
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have the payment of the claims. Did everyone have a chance to look at the claims? I think they were also changed a little bit.
Yeah, just the allocation on some stuff that came in from the health department. There might have been one other as well that came in that was in the allocation portion. You know which one that one was. It was, I know Tom could probably talk about the stuff the park department is getting. He met with them this morning. And then we have a invoice from SCH for the Burns Parkway. So to get that in this year, I figured that just one.
With that in mind, are there any questions, or is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Who did you hear a second? Okay.
That was me. No, Judy. I was writing Judy.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. All right, Mr. Bowditch, under old business, well, I guess it's staff reports. I wasn't sure if that would include the old business.
It's usually right before it, but that's okay.
Oh, sure.
Just under staff reports, very quickly to report to all the commission members who were there, as well as to the public and those in attendance tonight. It was December 12th, I believe it was December 12th, that the commission held the study session to review the past year's budget, past year's projects, to go through and determine completed projects, which will continue, others that'll continue into progress into next year, as well as discuss projects for consideration in the 2025 fiscal year budget. I have all those notes. I will have that all available for you at the January meeting for consideration of your fiscal year 2025 year budget. With that, I'll have the balances of the funds as of December 31st, year ending, so that we'll have better information as far as how funds can be allocated to each project or in which projects are available for funding. So we'll have that at the next meeting. It was a great discussion. I appreciate everybody's input on the projects, as well as everybody who was there to include their input on the projects also. Other than that, that's about it.
All right,
As far as staff reports.
sure thing.
And I did, to add to that, I apologize, I did submit my contractual professional services agreement for this year, which is the same as what it was last year. I did not change anything.
All right. Were there any other staff reports?
Actually, there's a legal staff report this time. With the major assistance from Bill, our RDC broker, the Porter County Public Library, the Library Garden Project, the 5 parcels per the memorandum of understanding have been quitclaim deed and transferred to the Porter County Public Library Service, so that has wrapped up, and I just want to let everybody know that that should put that project in the completed category, so that has happened.
All right. Yes, sir, Bill.
Just a couple updates and one request. The north side Paunica parcel, that transaction is closed and the deal is done. So that's one deal that we were able to close in this year. The 6051 Central project, in talking with the contractor today, they have one more thing to handle at the January 4th meeting, I think it is, 4th or 6th? 6th. And then they will be ready to close on the property across the street at the end of January. So that one's moving along. The downtown parcels and the trust parcels are both in the process of getting the appraisals. The field work is done. We'll have the appraisals probably the first week in January. So we will need to have an executive session in January at some point, middle of the month or so. And if we can get the schedule from WFC, maybe we can combine those into to do the executive first and then meet with them, try to get it all done in one day. Then I have one request regarding the Washington parcel up on the north side. I'm talking with Tom. We have a recorded easement or a access easement from the current owner of the Washington parcel that we're not exactly sure where that easement allows them to go. So I have a copy of the easement, but there is no map or surveys with it. I'd like to get a not to exceed authorization up to $3,500 to get a surveyor to lay out this easement so we know exactly where their access points are. I'll get some quotes for that and be able to move that along. If I can ask that of the board for a motion.
Have a motion on that?
Motion to approve for not to exceed $3,500 to get the survey.
Correct.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that gets us to the old business with the update on the home TIF approval process.
So the update on the home TIF approval process is that we are still awaiting information from the developers for the cost investments and the improvements that are to be made to the properties that have been identified. Once that information is provided to us, we can then move to preparing the necessary documents for the Redevelopment Commission to consider either in January or February. We've been following up with the individual developers, and it may be a function of the holidays, but we haven't heard any response. So we'll be following up within the next week. But we'll get those, the documents are ready to go. We just need to fill in that information, which is important.
Yeah.
But we
so-
haven't put it aside. We're just waiting for information.
No problem. So that gets us to the new business. We have discussion on resolution regarding the interim use of allocation funds.
So there was for the commission's purposes, there was a meeting that was held with bond counsel, financial advisor to the city as far as the purchase of various capital equipment purchases for the fire department and the police department related to vehicles and other equipment. The intent is for the issuance of an issuance of a bond or obligation in fiscal year 2025. The request and discussion rotated upon using available tax increment financing dollars to subsidize a cost allocation portion of that. And so part of the bond initiation and process was that the bond counsel would prepare an interim use of allocation funds until such time to order the equipment, because in some instances, the equipment is, the order time to delivery time is anywhere from 12 to 18 months. But you have to have a down payment available for that order to be taken and started. So the request was for an interim use of allocation funds for the purpose of subsidizing and for reimbursement that cost to have the order moved forward so that we can lessen the amount of time of delivery of the equipment. Now, I don't know if the mayor wants to go into detail about the amount of equipment or what type of equipment, but it was major capital investment in vehicles, police vehicles, as well as fire equipment and trucks.
So, I mean, I guess I'll start with what I think is just, common knowledge, or if you watch a lot of our council, RDC, and just city meetings, you might find, common knowledge is the city of Portage, we have a fleet of cop cars, starting on the police, side of it. And best practice would be to be switching out the older ones as they get older, replacing them with new, and then have a planned, life cycle, for them. We do have a life cycle for them, but in terms of the number of cars we have, the need, the amount that our, cops are running, we essentially ideally want to be replacing 10 cars a year at the rate we're going to have the best run, system for the department. So that's the police side. On the fire side, we'd be here a lot longer going over all the different types of equipment that the fire has when it comes to ambulances, the different types of fire trucks. But the big thing to note about it is that we are trying to catch up with where we should be, if that makes sense. One of the most pressing things, and it got addressed at the most recent Board of Works meeting, is that we have a fire truck that's turning 28 years old. It's our tower truck, and it really shouldn't be making it to 28. It's a testament to the excellent maintenance that we have at the department that it's run this long, but it's not responsible to believe that it would somehow make it to 30 or 31 or 32. And so what we've done through the Board of Works is we've approved, there was a special deal that would allow us to purchase one where we have 18 months to be able to actually order and then pay for the fire truck. Now, what's special about the deal that got passed at the Board of Works is that if 18 months goes by and the city were not able to pay for it, there would be a 6-month period where another municipality would be able to buy it from the dealer instead. We don't want that to happen. We want to be able to have that, but one of the things that we are about 99% sure of is that someone would be able to put their money together and buy one, and that would be an amazing, from their perspective, that would be a miracle of, wow, everybody needs a truck and here's one available, we can buy it right now. To prevent us from not losing our order, we went to work talking with Mr. Bowditch, Mr. Pittman, and Mr. Crone about what kind of financial plan we could put together. And as we talked about it, we started to see the other opportunities where that could help with other fire apparatus and the fleet of police cars. And maybe that's the spot where I could hand it back to you, Mr. Bowditch.
So just as some background and due diligence and information, so I do also teach a master's degree students at Calumet College of St. Joseph in public finance and planning and management. And one of their projects 2 classes ago was to look at all the fixed assets of the fire department and put together a useful life, when that life would expire, and when trucks can be cycled out, so that vehicles you would always have the best equipment available to you and cycle out the old equipment. The last class worked with the police department in the same manner, and it was determined that between the 2 departments that it was anywhere between a 5 to 7 year period, where if you equitably cycled out your equipment every 5 to 7 years, you would replace that equipment, with the exception of capital investments in equipment of a large nature, a tower truck that has a useful life of 20 years. Of course, you would most likely get the full life out of that. So it was looking at how annually you would pay for cycling out that equipment, but then every 6 years, every 5 to 7 years, whatever the determination was of the administration, a bond would be issued in order to make the major equipment purchases included with the annual purchases. And putting this all together and now speaking with the financial advisors and bond counsel, that information has been taken. So I want to thank the fire department and the police department, both chiefs, in assisting with that analysis, as well as the students at Calumet College of St. Joseph who worked on the projects to assist in providing information that is, now their class is about budgeting. And so their practical use of their studies is being applied for the city of Portage, and knowing that the project that they worked on is having an impact in a community where you will, over a 24-year period, be able to recycle out all your equipment. I mean, they even went out to 2060. So all the equipment, including the truck you buy or purchase this time, it goes way out to that 25-year period. Well, at some point in time, it's going to be recycled and repurchased. So I want to thank them. And really, the interim use of the allocation funds is intended to subsidize that period of time from when the city can issue the obligation, whatever classification or type of obligation that is, that the allocation funds would be used to allow for the orders to be made, and then the bonds or obligations, once issued, would reimburse the Redevelopment Commission for the use of those funds.
So essentially, is it fair to say that it's almost like co-signing a loan? I know that's probably not the right term, but it's to say that we would be providing the funding we need to show that we can make the order.
Yes.
And then by the time that the order comes in, we'd be reimbursed by
Exactly.
the bond.
Yep. Bingo.
One of the things that I really appreciate so much from Dan, but also his students and everyone who participated in putting this plan together, is it really does 2 big things. One, we all are aware that there are times where, especially when you're talking about big equipment, eventually you end up spending more on maintenance compared to what it costs to cycle out appropriately. This is a very appropriate cycle that allows us to maximize the efficiency and save the most money to put towards what we need long-term in the city. As he said, if we keep it up, it could go all the way to 2060. And I don't plan on necessarily being mayor by 2060. It's just to say that, like, I think that that's a good amount of time to plan for. The second thing, and I want to be very careful how I say this, but if executed, this depoliticizes equipment purchases. I don't mean to claim that there's ever been campaign issues about whether to buy this vehicle or this, but what I've experienced and what I've learned is that in the past, and maybe every city goes through this at some point, there's had to been a lot of lobbying of buying a particular piece of equipment. You know, I think that that's normal in government, that you might have a department head who's trying to make sure that what their department needs, you know, gets into the budget or gets approved by RDC or gets put into the bond. But making a plan like this that we can hang on to for years takes all of that politicking and lobbying out of it. It allows us to follow a plan that we can afford to properly cycle this equipment.
Right. In addition, from a budgeting perspective, when we look at a budget, you consider two types of classification of expenses. You have your fixed expenses, which we know what the cost is, and the variable expenses. So part of what they looked at was, and what we all want to do as budget officials and administrators, is take your variable classified expenses and make them fixed. That's in many instances why you lease copy machines, because you want to take that and know what the cost is monthly or annually. Well, in this sense, we're taking a variable cost of when do we replace major capital equipment investments in vehicles, in trucks, in support equipment. How do we take that as a variable cost and make it a fixed cost so that we know what that fixed cost is every year going out 20, 30 years, which is valuable to the community and cross-administrative. So it's providing the best service and equipment to the community on an annual basis every year for the next 20 to 30 years. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to change, maybe 10 cars one year and 12 cars to fit in, but it's a function of knowing that every cycle you're going to have new equipment. Because the repairs and the maintenance, and I believe the police chief is here.
He was,
left.
but I assured him that you'd be able to explain
Chief
this.
Candiano
so-
was here. You know, he would tell you as well as the fire chief, that maintenance costs are a variable cost. We never know what's going to happen because of the age of the equipment. Well, when it's new equipment, that maintenance cost, you're now shifted it to be a fixed cost, which is good. You always want to shift as many. So we wanted to introduce that to you so the commission understood what we were looking to do as far as preparation of that interim use of allocation funds, and that'll be included in the budget also, if that's acceptable. But we wanted to present it to you this evening. Again, reimbursable, totally reimbursable from the obligation of the bonds.
Your students, and you especially on the first class where we looked into the fire department, equipment, one of the things we all said is we looked at this plan and we said, this is brilliant, this is perfect, we just need the funding to kickstart
Right.
this.
Right.
And I think that this is the kickstart is what I think we're finding, but not even really a kickstart, it's the beginning of this plan.
Right. So the fire department transitioned to the police department, and the police department is going to transition and started as far as the parks department. So you can see how every department can now be done, and these students are getting practical experience. I mean, they really are, and they
Wasn't it
appreciate
the case
so.
that at least the first class, the majority of them were Chicago cops?
A great percentage of them are Chicago police officers.
Which is really cool, but to think that we had Chicago police officers making the equipment, plan for the fire department was just kind of neat.
They normally don't get along with fire department officials, so. But it was a good exercise for them. They all enjoyed it. In fact, this class, they're even, talking about how this is important of a process considering what they're going through in their budget considerations in Chicago, or just completed. So it's been a learning experience for them. It was good stuff.
Are there any other questions for you guys? Thank you so much. Mr. Cherry, did you want to come and discuss the fire department exhaust fan?
Yeah, this is, I'll make it real quick. You already approved the exhaust fan and the payment of the exhaust fan. There was an additional cost, and I'm just here to let you know it was legitimate. They had to balance that exhaust fan. It was an additional cost of $400. Yep, so pretty easy ask, but but it was previously approved for 2058. Okay. 62, okay. So a small increase was needed, so.
You said 400?
It was 400, yeah. Easy one for you, so. I could add a few zeros if you want, but.
No. After the decimal to the right. You can add all the numbers you want to the right of the decimal.
I would say that's pretty close if it just came down to $400, so. Is there any questions on that or a motion?
Motion to approve the additional $400 for the fire department's equipment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next up, we have the Economic Developments Finance Consulting LLC's agreement for 2025 services. Dan, I think you already said this is your agreement, right?
This is my agreement for the similar services provided during 2024 fiscal year. As stated earlier, I did not change any of the hourly rates. I did not change the not to exceed. I believe so far this budget year, I've been under the amount that was the not to exceed amount, so I haven't met that. So I figured just keep it the same the way it is. It's been a pleasure working with the Redevelopment Commission, all the members and the staff, from Sonia to Tom and Dan and the mayor and everybody. And I would love to continue to work with the Redevelopment Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I look forward to the next year, believe me.
We have the discussion on the Trail Bridge Rehabilitations Project. Mr. Cherry, I think you wanted this tabled, is that right?
Yeah, Kelly,
Yeah,
somebody was not able to make it.
gotcha. Is there such a motion to table this?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any other business the commission deems necessary?
Going into next year, can we look at I know last year we spent a few months dealing with landscaping.
Yes, that was,
Yes. Oh, here we go.
Is
Thank
it
you, Greg.
I appreciate the hand raised in the
Yeah.
back too. We'll get to you guys, but that's we'll take this one first.
Is it possible to get a jump on it and start?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was provided with a printout of all the landscaping costs from the prior year. In looking at those, and we'll have a conversation with Sandy McDaniel as the Assistant Director. And the initial recommendation is that Sandy and I, along with Sonia, will look at all the services provided for landscaping and determine through a request for proposals and qualifications next year's landscaping services, or determine if there's any services that can be done through city operations, park operations, and then reimburse or pay for those to the city rather than to a professional service company. And we'll have that recommendation for you in January.
I know that one of the things that we talked about last January, I think, it must have been, right? How long have I been mayor?
It was
since
either
January,
February, or
so,
March, first quarter.
One of the things we talked about was how the way that it had been set up when the quotes came back, there was like each one was a small job, and we kept opening the envelopes from like one of two companies, and we ended up going with just the smaller one in each case. And one of the things I think we talked about was putting more of them, if there's a need to bid that out or quote that out, maybe putting more of them together to see if that attracts maybe more companies and more competitive bids,
Right.
rather than maybe just two, putting in, I don't remember exactly how many quotes were requested. It felt like 100, but it was probably more like 12 or 15.
Right.
And if we're able to put some of those together, I wonder if that might actually create a bigger savings.
Is it possible for us to do a professional services contract? Because working with the city, it changed quite a bit throughout the year, depending on workload and everything.
Yes. So that's part of what I would call the capital stack of how we would approach the professional services and the landscaping services themselves. What can be done by city services, what can be done by park services, and within the current organizational structure and human resources abilities, qualifications, and the equipment that's available. And then anything that cannot be done through those means, have a professional services agreement with a company to take care of those services on behalf of the Redevelopment Commission.
Were we able to do a GIS map of all the locations that we were doing?
We are working on that now with Marsh to put together all the information on the facilities and where those facilities are located and who owns them. So, yeah. So they're working on that. So we're going to be looking into this. This is, in my opinion, unacceptable. Yeah. Unacceptable. And we'll have a recommendation, Sandy and I will have a recommendation for you at the January meeting.
Just for the record, we did hire Allen's under professional service agreement last year.
I believe we had a hand raised in the back. You guys wanted to come up?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. John Tucker, Structure Point. Just wanted to give you a quick project update on the Central Avenue Bridge project. Of all the 367 timber piles are all complete. Contractors currently working on the west side of the creek, cutting the piles down to elevation, grading and placing the stone. The east side, all the piles are cut to elevation, stones prepped, and they're actually forming for the concrete caps. They will be working sporadically through the holiday season. They only have Christmas Eve and Christmas and New Year's as what's required to be off, so they're going to continue to work as weather permits. They're still about a week ahead of schedule. In the next couple of weeks, they'll continue to form for the concrete. They'll have to place it in 4 different stages with a pump truck just to get to each of every single pile cap. So that's what will be happening probably for the next month is forming, pouring, stripping, forming, pouring for all the concrete caps, and then proceeding with the platform. If there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to address. Feel free.
So is the pouring of the concrete weather dependent?
Yes, it's still weather dependent. We are making provisions for some winter protection. So as long as we have the weather to actually pour it, and then they'll have it covered, and then we'll be able to keep moving on until we hopefully get the concrete poured for any deep freezing right now. We still got to be aware of the overnight freezing.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to gather business for the good of the commission, and if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And thank you all.
Thank you.